Welcome to Jashn-E-Azadi 2021, organized by Asian Literary Society. Dear friends, as you all know, Asian Literary Society is committed to promote Asian art, culture, and literature, but along with that, we also promote our own Indian values. And in this section, in this regard, we are coming with Jashn-E-Azadi, when we are celebrating the India's Independence Day. And today we have very eminent panelists along with us who will be moderated by none other than our very own Dr. Bishakha Sarma. So I would like to quickly introduce Dr. Bishakha Sarma. Bishakha Sarma is a linguist who specializes in the documentation of endangered and lesser known languages. She is a passionate writer. Her writings, both in prose and poetry, have been published in journals and anthologies. She is administrator of Asian Literary Society. She has learned Indian classical music instrumental Mohan Veena from Ravi Shankar Institute of Music and Performing Arts, New Delhi. So now I request Dr. Vishakha Sarma to please introduce our distinguished guest without any further delay.
Thank you, Manoj. Thank you so much. Welcome, viewers, once again to the prestigious forum of Jashn-E-Azadi. Asian Literary Society is celebrating India through art and literature. And we have with us on our panel two very distinguished guests. Our first panelist, Sohini Roychowdhury, is an Indian dancer, choreographer, author, public speaker, visionary, and philosopher. She is a founder and professor of Natya Shastra, Sohini Moksha World Dance and Communications, and Sohini Moksha Arts Dala India in Madrid, Kolkata, and Berlin. She is an awardee at the House of Lords, UK, and Priyadarshini awardee by the President of India. Sohini and her multinational Sohini Moksha Troops' worldview and mission is to connect civilizations and enrich lives through art, music, and dance. Welcome on the forum, Sohini Roychowdhury. Our next panelist, Dr. Ampat Varghese Koshy, is a renowned author, essayist, poet, fiction writer, and critic. He is an editor of some bestseller anthologies and books. Besides this, Dr. Koshy has been working till recently as an assistant professor in the English department of Zazan University, Saudi Arabia. He also runs an autism non-profit organization with his wife, Anna Gabriel. Dr. Koshy has many books, degrees, diplomas, certificates, and awards to his credit. He contributed to 25 books of varied genres as a co-author, author, and editor. To mention some of his books, these are Wake Up India, Essays for Our Time, Dattani's Plays, Staging the Invisible. This is a book of research essays on the plays of Mahesh Dattani. A fiction book, Scream and Other Urbane Legends. Two of his co-authored books recently published in 2020 were Amazon bestsellers, both in India and USA. And these are Wine-Kissed Poems and Vodka by the Volga. Welcome on the forum, Dr. Koshy.
Thank you, Bishakha. Thank you.
Welcome, viewers. To start the discussion, the Indian tradition of literature is known to be the oldest. The Vedas, the Upanishads, the epics, the Ramayana, and the Mahabharata. The golden era of Indian literature includes writings of Kalidas, Abhigyanam Shakuntalam, Meghdut, and then Chanakya's Arthashastra, Vatsyayana's Kama Sutra. And then we have written in Avdi, Tulsidas, Ramcharitmanas. Tamil literature is also known to have a very rich tradition. And then in Indian literature, there are varied genres since the early times, like religious love songs and Geet Govinda written in Maithili, and then Bhakti lyrics of Mirabai, Bhakti hymns of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. I also remember the most famous Hindi novelist, Munshi Premchand Ji, who contributed great to Indian literature. The Ram Mohan Roy and Swami Vivekananda's works to support the cause of freedom struggle and abolition of social evils are also considered great examples of the English literature in India. So many writers have contributed to the development of modern Indian literature in both regional languages as well as in English. Rabindranath Tagore was the first Indian to receive the Nobel Prize for Literature. The modern period sees writings of Mulkraj Anand, R.K. Nayan, and so many other writers. And we know the names of eminent novelists like Salman Rushdie, Vikram Seth, Arundhati Roychowdhury, Jhumpa Lahiri, and many others. So, Dr. Koshy, how do you think the authors use their creative minds to celebrate India through their writings?
Yeah, I want to answer this question by telling you that the names that you spoke of, how they won glory for India is because they are famous not only in India but across the world. You know, if you tell people, for example, I was in Saudi Arabia, and if you tell people about India, they have heard about Rabindranath Tagore. So I think that for a writer, now we heard about Neeraj Chopra. Everyone knows about Neeraj Chopra because he won the gold in Olympics.
Yeah.
So whether it's a writer, I am a writer, or whether it's Sohini as a writer and philosopher and professor of Natya Shastra and all that, I think that we are bringing glory to India when we get acclaim on the international stage. But of course, that's the outward part. As you know, I know that she has got an award in UK. I remember that very clearly. And I was awarded, best researcher in Jashn University in 2018. So
Wonderful, wonderful.
these things bring glory to the nation. Actually, when we do things like that. Or I won a World Bank, course. I stood among the top 5. So this brings glory to India. But behind it, the real secret is, when you give your best, when you give your everything, and you do to the best of your ability, and then people recognize you everywhere, and then they say he's an Indian, and then our nation gets the glory. So that's my view
Thank
on
you.
that matter.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely, Dr. Koshy. Thank you so much. Music and dance is a powerful mode of cultural expression, of subtle thoughts and refined ideas. And each region feels proud of their heritage, their style and form of expression. And the folk and the hymns clearly carries the regional flavor. We appreciate each other's forms of art, and we do love to learn, relearn, and infuse various regional features to enrich our own. I believe this, I believe this inclusive nature has widened our artistic scope and contributes towards a greater pedagogical understanding. So, Sohini, how do music or dance celebrate diversity to exhibit India as, as culturally one of the most significant countries of the world?
Yes, I love your question, Bishakha. And since I worked extensively in South America, North America, Europe, and the East European countries and countries like Croatia also, I would like to say that it is not all a cakewalk. As soon as India is going forefront with cultural views, there is a lot of cultural racism, which Ampat would have also faced. And some people may think it's exotic, but it's our job, I think, to enlighten them about the deeper nature of our Indian classical dances and our raga music, for them to actually appreciate the layers, the vintage, and the evolved form. Because even now, as we speak, in Europe, for example, when I started my Shoini Moksha Artes de la India about 15 years ago as a troupe, uh, the classical things were ballet from France or from America or from Russia. And if they wanted something folk or tribal, they would call Africa or India. That is the positioning, whether we like it or not. So I think I did my little bit in 3 or 4 years. We were invited to perform on stages, and we were competing with ballet troupes, with jazz bands, with rock bands, and that is what I wanted, that complete inclusivity. And I think, like Ampat, I'm also a firebrand at my work. I call a spade, and we believe in art democracy totally. And when there were people trying to patronize you and be the elder brother, and say, oh, okay, Bharatnatyam, what a beautiful exotic. I said, no, no, we are not exotic. Exotic would be an Ukrainian lap dance. Bharatnatyam is even more classical and more ancient based on the Natya Shastra than your ballet. So we are not exotic, sorry. We are a very serious chamber dance and classical dance. So that was necessary, and we are still communicating that way, so that only when the Indian embassy is doing something, or for an India festival, we don't dance. We dance for anything. We could dance for Mother's Day or World Dance Day or any film premiere. And in Spain, there's this festival of the Three Kings. It's a very Christian festival, Catholic festival. It's the March of the Three Kings, and in the year 2016 we were invited in all our Indian classical glory to head that. And I thought that is where we had maybe made a little mark, and we were heading that procession, and there were about 50,000 in the audience, and over 1 million, because we had all media support, helicopters flying in, and all of that. So this was in the Catholic country of Spain, and we were heading this Catholic procession on the 5th of January. So I felt that we had integrated, we had made a point. So that was important to me.
Yeah, wonderful, Sohini. That's true. Dr. Koshy, would you tell us about your book on essays, Wake Up India? This is so relevant in today's discussion.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you hear me, Bishakha?
Yes, yes,
Because
yes,
yeah, because I
yes,
had
I can.
seen the mic go off. Yeah. So
Yes,
this is a book, Wake Up India: Essays for Our Times. It was
wonderful.
written. Most of the essays are by me, and it's also I had a co-author who's Dr. Beena Bishwas. She was professor in Hyderabad, and now she runs her own publishing house. And this book, I told you, I have worked with the World Bank on a course where I came in the top 5 of the
Yeah.
people who joined, and then I worked with European Union on another course called Edge Riders, and they were also very much impressed with the things I wrote. This is why I said, whatever art you're practicing, if you give it everything, then people wake up and they begin to come to a place where we make a mark, we make a dent, as Sohini was saying, in different parts of the world. And so I just in this, I had said something about what I had got this from these places I studied in, or people who I taught or taught with me in the European Union, in the World Bank. We were sharing things together, and we came to this some conclusions which are now quite commonly understood. So
Okay.
one is about this book was put on the reading list by an American professor in an American university, and the
Okay.
reason was I speak about the happiness index, and about wellness and
Okay.
global wellness and the happiness index. And he was so surprised because he's the one who originated this idea, And I was
Okay.
so surprised that an Indian had, picked it up and had spoken about it in a book, and he put it on his reading list in his courses in America, in that university. I forget the name of the university now. So
Okay.
this is one thing that I think when people, talk of the future, we speak of things like eradicating poverty. We speak of things like giving everyone water. There should be electricity for everyone. Internet should be available for everyone. Raising the standard of living, all these things. But countries that are working on the happiness index, especially like the Scandinavian countries, for example, I think that the difference maybe that their overall aim is, they say, we want all our citizens to be happy. And
Yeah.
these things, these smaller things are part of that larger plan in the happiness index. So I really think that this book is a valuable addition. Now, of course, many more studies have come on these things. And I
Okay.
have also studied, there was a think tank called You Think and Urgent Evoke and Edge Riders by European Union. And there's a Millennium Development Goals, and there are the sustainable goals of the UN, which are all now being implemented by many companies and organizations in India. So I think that if we work on these things, and I have begun to outline the problems and some of the solutions in this book. I hope that there will be a sequel one day. If we work on these things, we'll not only be celebrating our 75th Independence Day and 75th year of independence, but I believe definitely that in the coming years we will be the topmost nation in the whole world. But it involves a lot of hard work on everyone's part.
Okay. Okay. So that's what
When
you
we
want to
talk,
say. Wake up. That's what
where
you want
we
to say.
talk,
Wake up, India.
wake up India. That's what I want to say. Wake up India. Where we top the happiness index
Okay.
or global
Okay.
wellness. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Sohini, how do your Sohini Moksha world dance and communications connect civilizations and enrich lives through art, music, and dance?
You see, I have students and centers and performances in New York, but more in South America, Spain, Berlin, Russia, France, all of that. Because my students, when they came to me, I found a common connect of empathy. For example, I would teach Bharatanatyam moves with Pablo Neruda's poetry, or Baudelaire's poetry, or with Tchaikovsky in Russia. In Spain, we did it a lot with flamenco guitar. So as soon as people have that strain of familiarity, that connect, that is the way I engage them. Then they would feel familiar with it, feel comfortable, and then delve further and realize the true nature of our arts. Most of my students now, are learning for 10 or 12 years, and a lot of them are performers, independent Bharatanatyam performers on stage. Like Celia in France, she's a performer on stage. She did a Ganesh Vandana recently, and she's done Tilanas. Maria in Spain is also performing extensively. Kristina Veslinova, she's from Bulgaria. She has also performed. Even in India, she's been invited to perform. So that is how I connected with Bulgarian poetry. With when somebody comes from, let's say, nation A or B, I try to find a connect with their poetry, their song, their music composers, and with our Bharatnatyam and Adital, we try to bring about a common language which establishes that there are no others. We are just one.
Yeah.
And then you flower out more because your mind is at rest, and you come home, so the art flourishes without constraints of barriers.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Love this answer. It's very enlightening. Thank you, Sohini. Dr. Koshi, how today's literature celebrates India's unity in diversity, and how it can be continued in the future.
Yeah, I mean, today's literature, and especially the literature of India's past, does celebrate unity in diversity. And even now there are, many good examples of that. For example, if you take, a magazine like Indian Literature by Sahitya Academy, it celebrates all the regional languages, and we
Yeah.
get to read all the different writers in translation. But I told you the limit is it is limited. As far as I know, such magazines which are doing wonderful work are limited to being read only by Indians, whether they are Indians in India or Indians in the diaspora. And we can reach out and spread further, both within the nation and without the nation, through this interface between what is national and international. Now, for example, I have instituted an award in the name of my son who has autism. It's called the Rural International, Literature Award, and it's been there for 6 years. It's going into the 7th year. So the aim there is that you have a merit-oriented award, but it's also an award that tries to avoid the trap of becoming purely Indian.
Okay.
Where you drive it, like people respect Arundhati Roy because she got the Booker, which is, or Salman Rushdie because he got the Booker, or Arvind Adiga, but they should also respect Indian prizes. And when they are given to someone abroad and he thinks this is as good or as big as the prize that we got from, abroad. And so you have to widen the spectrum. You have to widen in India, for example, widen the spectrum of award winners so that people from the Northeast or people, from all different parts of India are known to each other in a much bigger way, and not
Yeah.
just a few pockets or centers, the metros. And you also have to widen. And there I really admire Sohini's work, because I know that her work, it widens the spectrum in the way in which I desire to do it. But since I'm doing it with English, dance and music are more universal, so you can reach all parts of the world. But because it's English, my work is more known in India and UK and USA, Canada. I mean, places where English is, more common. So the reach is slightly less. But still, this is my hope. We can celebrate the unity and the diversity, the unity in the diversity, by spreading our vision further to make it an interface between what is national and international.
Wow. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Koshy. Thank you so much. I think English is very important because, you know, only through this language we can understand the rich heritage of so many regions
Yes.
and having so
Yeah,
varied cultures.
I
There's
agree.
no other way. There's no other way, but there's only one language where, if one writes in English, only then we come to know about their rich heritage, their culture.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dr. Koshi. So nice listening to you.
I,
Uh, Sohini, how does your art have a voice? How does it connect with social activism and upliftment?
For me, my art has to have a voice, because unless you have a story to tell and a message to give, what do you say on stage? And a good concert is only when your storytelling is spent on stage and you've communicated with the audience in your one large whole, a complete part. So I give dance classes intensively. It's called I Am, in the jails of Vaikula and Thane in Maharashtra, where I teach the women convicts and their children. I also teach the red light area children in Kolkata under Apne Aap. I teach the deaf and mute abandoned orphanage in Rajasthan, and in Kolkata we have an NGO called Little Big Help, where we have our homes house the orphans have been rescued, and I teach them extensively. And I have done productions with them where they are on stage performing, and that gives them their I am moments, their sense of self, and they can aspire so much so that these children and the teenagers, not only do they want to dance and become dancers, but it has improved their public speaking skills, their debating skills. They have more confidence in their classrooms to ask questions to the teachers, and educationally they've become better and more curious. So I think definitely dance can be used to uplift and
Yeah.
it gives you that I am moment of confidence that yes, I can. You know, I have seen this with these children who didn't even think they were worthy of, talking to. They would just hide behind the chairs or the sofas and say, okay, okay, have you noticed me? I said, yes, you're a dancer. Please come up and do it, and I'm sure you'll be very good. And with intensive work on their part, of course, on my part, I'm meant to do it. I'm a teacher, but they've also worked so hard, waking up at 4 o'clock to extensively practice, put on their makeup, and to perform for the Times of India street, for the street festival. And not a single mistake. And from then, I saw them actually becoming different people. That confidence, that fire, that aspiration happened. So I would say that is how it worked with me, with my students.
Wonderful. I mean, you've done great things, Sohini. I feel so proud. It's
Thank you.
wonderful. Uh, Sohini, before we end this session, why don't you recite Rabindranath Tagore's original poem, the most famous poem, Where the Mind is Without Fear?
I would love to do that. চিত্ত যেথায় ভয় শূন্য, লিখেছেন কবিগুরু রবীন্দ্রনাথ ঠাকুর। চিত্ত যেথা ভয়শূন্য, উচ্চ যেথা শির, জ্ঞান যেথা মুক্ত, যেথা গৃহের প্রাচীর, আপন প্রাঙ্গণ তলে দিবস সর্বরি, বসুধারে রাখে নাই খণ্ড ক্ষুদ্র করি। যেথা বাক্য হৃদয়ের উৎস মুখ হতে উচ্ছ্বসিয়া ওঠে, যেথা নির্বারিত স্রোতে দেশে দেশে দিশে দিশে কর্মধারা ধায়, অজস্র সহস্রবিদ চরিতার্থতায়। যেথা তুচ্ছ আচারের মরু বালু রাশি, বিচারের স্রোত পথ ফেলে নাই গ্রাসী, পৌরুষেরে করেনি শতধা, নিত্য যেথা তুমি সর্বকর্ম চিন্তা আনন্দের নেতা, নিজ হস্তে নির্দয় আঘাত করি পিত, ভারতেরে সেই স্বর্গে কর জাগরিত।
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Let my country awake. Thank you, Sohini. Thank you, Dr. Koshy. Thank you, viewers, and a very happy Independence Day to all of you. Stay tuned.
Okay, well, heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed guests, Kosi sir and Sohini ji. It was indeed a wonderful session. Special thanks to Bishakha ji for wonderful moderation of today's session. I would also like to thank all the audience for supporting us. You must have seen a lot of comments from them. So Bishakha ji, after this session, kindly reply all these audience who have given this support to us.
Sure.
The recording of this session will be uploaded on our official channel on YouTube very soon. Thanks again to all of you for your presence and participation. Happy Independence Day.
Happy
Thank you,
Independence
all
Day.
of you.
Thank you.
Happy Independence Day.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.